That's a pretty nice cover art.
If you say so.
Oh, come on, Seal. You mean you don't like this picture?
Well, I don't dislike it.
So, Prince of Persia is a 2D platformer which was released for the Apple II computer in 1989. Nice try, game. It was designed by a man named Jordan Mechner, who is, quite frankly, a living legend. He revolutionized the video game industry more than once and is considered to be one of the greatest developers of all time. His first game, Karateka, was a very successful release at the time and helped to put him on the map, but it was his second game which is most remembered, Prince of Persia. The opening cutscene looks pretty awesome and tells us the premise of the game. The evil vizier wants to acquire power over land by marrying the sultan's daughter. He has given her only 1 hour to decide whether to marry him or die, and it falls to the nameless protagonist to save her, whom vizier has thrown into a dungeon. This is as basic as the story can get, but there is one thing that this cutscene achieves perfectly, and that is, it establishes the setting. Even though it is such a simple plot, the imagery is so ultimately recognizable that you can't help but remember all the things associated with the Arabian folklore. A genie in the bottle, a flying carpet, an evil vizier. These things are so deeply rooted in our memories that even though the presentation is so primitive, you can't help but remember the tales of 1001 Nights, also known as Arabian Nights, of Princess Scheherazade and Aladdin. Oh man. You know what, Seal? I think we should watch Aladdin sometime later.
Sure.
And off we go. Right off the bat you notice that the controls are weird. To run you press left or right on the keyboard. To crouch you press down and up to jump. But what is truly unsettling is the weird response delay in the controls. I mean, Prince doesn't instantly perform the action at the press of a button, but rather enters an animation cycle which then delays the execution of the command by a second or so. Well, apparently there is fall damage in this game. In the place we fell down to, we can go in two directions. Overwhelming, I know. So let's head right. Here we can see the first enemy, and due to the fact that the prince does not have a sword, he dies. The artistic significance of this scene is that you suck. I mean, I suck. What I'm trying to say is that the person who plays sucks.
George, for Christ's sake, compose yourself.
Sorry. Let's get back on track. There is no way I have to take damage to leave this room. There must be a way to climb down. I press down, but that only crouches. Getting close to the edge here. Let's turn before we fall down. Oh, to climb you need to turn your back to the ledge and then press down. Good to know. There are actually a number of moves you can pull off. You can jump from your standing position by pressing up with the directional buttons, or perform a running jump, which has a longer arc but requires some space to build up speed. You can also make a sharp 180-degree turn by pressing an opposite arrow key to the direction you are running towards. This is in fact an important trick since all of the Prince's movements have momentum, meaning that when you let go of a button, Prince doesn't stop dead in his tracks, but rather makes a couple more steps before stopping. Combine that with a delay due to the animation cycle and you get a pretty difficult control scheme overall. So after navigating the path to the left of the fall, we come to a room with a sword, which we can pick up by pressing the shift button. This means that we can now go and fight the guard which prevented our progress earlier. The controls change once Prince takes out his sword. You can change direction by pressing directional keys, but you can now just sidestep to left or right, while constantly facing the enemy. Pressing up performs a parry, pressing down makes Prince seize his sword, and to attack you press the shift key. The combat becomes a series of parries and attacks, which is, although simple, a pretty fun gameplay. The reason why is that the openings for those attacks and parries require precise timing, yet not to an unfair degree. The delay between the button press and the execution of a command disappears during combat, which combined with the required timing results in an engaging and overall fun gameplay. And so after we defeat the enemy, we can go to the next stage. The second level is much harder. There are a number of guards now, which are not only stronger than the first one, but are also placed in a position of advantage, making the battle with them uncomfortable for you. The game also introduces a couple of new gameplay mechanics, such as spikes and potions that increase your health. Notice here that if you press shift, you can walk without the risk of falling off edges or getting caught by the traps. And you can even walk on spikes. The most notable moment is at the end of the level. There is a little platform positioned across a gap which requires running jump to get across. Yet the platform does not provide enough room. The point is that to get past this part you need to master the most important trick in the entire game. You need to carefully step as close as possible to the edge, then turn around, start running, immediately make a 180-degree turn and jump. This is a very useful move, so it's no wonder why they make you master it so early in the game. Now, even though I'm aware of how dated the graphics of this game are, I need to give credit when credit is due. Look at how distinctly visible everything is. This switch tile is just slightly elevated above the others, yet because of how simplistic the visuals are, you can instantly and easily see it. Also, the animations in this game were mind-blowing at the time of release. The trick is that it was actually made through rotoscopy, meaning that Jordan Mechner had recorded his brother jumping and running on an actual camera, and then digitized it into a game to create such a fluent and realistic animation, which is actually the reason why this video game genre became widely known as a cinematic platformer. Personally, I prefer the term realistic platformer, since to me this does not feel as much cinematic as it is realistic. Oh, I forgot to tell about the time limit.
So, you were not kidding earlier.
What do you mean?
You do suck at this game.
Okay, I need to take a break.
What are you doing?
I'm going to watch Aladdin. You don't mind, do you?
Not at all. I like this film.
Let's watch it then.
I can take a hint, gotta face the facts. You're my only friend, Abu.
Man, after all these years, and I still freaking love this movie.
It's good. But I think I like The Thief of Baghdad from 1940s more.
I've never seen this film. But do you think I should watch it sometime?
Absolutely.
I'll keep that in mind then. But for now, let's get back to Prince of Persia. So, the time limit. Remember how in the cutscene Vizier gave the princess 1 hour to make her decision? It was not an empty phrase. Apparently the game literally meant 1 hour, meaning that you have only 60 real-time minutes to beat the game. Now allow me to say that this 1 hour time limit is such an important gameplay element that practically everything in this game is somehow influenced by its presence. First of all, you can die as many times as you want, since the only way to get a game over screen is by running out of time. This means that when you start the game, there is virtually no pressure on you. I mean, yeah, the controls are weird, but you have limitless amount of lives and there is so much time at your hands that you even forget that there is a time limit. You can learn the controls at your own pace without the fear of losing. This is actually a perfect solution to what could otherwise be a problem. I mean, these controls feel limited. They encourage you to be very careful and cautious, even when you do get the hang of these controls. It also means that they slow down the gameplay. Now that is where the time limit comes in. It inspires urgency and motivates you to go fast. This element of haste is what balances out the gameplay. You want to go fast, you want to outrun the clock, and win the race of time, but you can only go as fast as your skill at those controls allows. Now this is a very elegant system. The 1 hour time limit encourages you to be very bold in your actions, while the limited control scheme motivates you to be very careful. Now imagine just how this game would work without the 1 hour time limit. The balance of the system would be ruined, and the gameplay would fall to the extreme side of the careful approach. The player wouldn't feel the need to be quick, and this would make the game tediously slow. Not to mention that a very important part of the game would simply disappear. A sense of tension. You run as fast as you can, since you are aware that if you take too long, you will lose. This is suspenseful, involving and engaging, but if you remove the ability to lose, you will also remove all stakes from the game. It would feel simply boring.
Typically, platformers manage to create tension by limiting the amount of lives and continues.
Now that is a classic solution to the problem, but it would simply not work with this game. I mean, ask yourself, what is the point of limited lives? What do they bring into the game? They motivate you to play more carefully. They make you fear death and prevent you from acting thoughtlessly. Now think about this. By bringing such a system of limited lives into the Prince of Persia, an already slow game which already motivates you to be careful through its limited controls, you would of course bring tension into this game, but you would also make a slow game even slower. This would be a disaster. I mean, to bring tension into this game by making the player afraid to die would bring more harm than good, since now the game would become unbearably slow. The time limit is an ingenious design choice which brings tension into the game while simultaneously making the gameplay much faster. The only possible downside is that the player might lose his spirits once he feels that he doesn't have enough time left to beat the game. At this point he might just turn off the game, but he also might spend his remaining time exploring the sprawling levels of this game. These levels are complex, multi-leveled environments with different passageways and secrets. For example, here is the beginning of the third level. Instantly you have 2 ways to go, and when you go to the right, 3 more options appear. Now one of those turns out to be a dead end, but that is the nature of exploration. You go around the level and gradually learn its layout. What keeps you motivated to explore is the presence of secrets, most of which give you an additional health potion, but also, on almost every level there is a secret which conceals a potion that raises your maximum amount of health. The levels themselves are designed in such a manner as to make the player learn and understand the level, in order to finish it. Basically it means that you can't just mindlessly run through the level, but instead you need to pay attention to your surroundings. For example, on the same third level there is a closed door, which seemed to be the only way to go, but there is no switch to open the door. You start walking around and notice that, on the ground floor, there is a peculiar arrangement of walls above your head, located just to the right of the ledge you've previously visited. A pattern starts to form in your head, so having no other option you decide to jump to test your theory. And boom, there it is, you've just solved a spatial awareness puzzle. You press the switch and run all the way back to jump across. Now this entire situation might feel a little bit unintuitive when I describe it, but believe me that in the actual game the solution comes to you pretty naturally. This spatial awareness puzzle uses already established mechanics such as jumping and pressing switch tiles to open doors. It also gives you a pretty obvious hint and creates a situation in which you don't have anything to do other than to try this possibility, which, considering that you don't lose anything if you die, makes you inclined to experiment. That means that the game pretty much guides you to successfully solve... Well, that's new. And what am I supposed to do with this? I can't walk or run through it. No matter what I do, the mirror won't let me pass. Let's try a run and jump. That's gonna haunt me later, isn't it? Now, if you were thinking that the gameplay is going to be stale and unsurprising, then this mirror situation kind of proves you wrong. You see, the actual game design of Prince of Persia is slightly more complex than you might have initially thought. The main gameplay relies heavily on its established mechanics and rules. You jump, you fight, you navigate the levels. That is the game. But then all of a sudden developers throw a completely out of ordinary gameplay situation, which requires you to come up with a solution outside of what you are used to do in this game. For example, there is a strange potion laying on the ground. You drink it and a mysterious music starts playing. An idea pops into your head and you decide to test it. You jump and yes, the potion gave you levitation ability. These are not even the most memorable moments in this game. What I've shown you is just a small fraction of the array of unique gameplay situations in which the game puts you. Let me tell you, sometimes these moments can really be jaw-dropping. Because of how surprising they are and how different they seem compared to what you were doing, they make the game tremendously more engaging and even emotional. I need to mention that even though these situations feel completely outside of the box, they are still operating within gameplay mechanics. Thus you are never stuck or confused when those moments... Well, at least we've made some decent progress this time around.
So what are you going to watch now?
Well, what else, Seal? We are going to watch The Thief of Baghdad. That was a great movie.
I've got to say that it was worse than I remember.
You mean you didn't like it? This movie was awesome.
Don't get me wrong, I like it, but I think this movie has dated quite a lot since the last time I saw it.
Well, I've enjoyed it. Okay, I've got to say that by now I actually got the hang of the controls and I started to really enjoy them. A perfect word to describe this control scheme would be limited. You can control the character in this game as easy as you would Mario, for example. But rather the opposite. You feel as if you have to force him to do everything. That you don't have as much control over the character as you would like, and as a result, you might think that you would feel disconnected from him. You would be wrong. Exactly because of this limited control scheme, you will feel connected to the prince in a way you were never connected to a protagonist of a 2D platformer before. Let me explain. Because of how limited the control scheme is, Prince feels like a human being rather than a jumping flea. Every action feels real, deliberate, and because of the delay in execution after you press a button, because of all the inertia and the momentum, you feel the weight of the character. You feel that he is an actual human being. The feeling of the character's weight and the awareness of his body is what distinguishes the genre of realistic platformers. And, most importantly, what makes you connected to the character. You become aware of every move, every jump and every step. You feel it all as if you are doing it yourself. The level of immersion that this limited control scheme brings is astounding. Because without these limitations you wouldn't be aware of the body you're controlling. In Mario you are not aware of his body, you don't feel the weight behind his movements, but rather forget that you are controlling him. In Prince of Persia you are aware of character's every movement and feel the weight behind it, which results in this important thing: you do not forget that you are controlling a human being. And this is why you are able to relate to him, to put yourself in his situation, and this, considering that you are controlling Prince, that you are indeed in his exact situation, results in an immense level of immersion. At this point, you are Prince, and this level of immersion, which could only be achieved through limited controls, is what can't be done with the freedom of Mario controls. You will never feel as connected to Mario as you would to Prince. And as a result, jumping pits in his games will never feel as emotional as it is in Prince of Persia. More fun, yes, most certainly, but not as thrilling, not as personal. This is a key word here, personal. It's not just the controls which make you connected to the Prince. Every aspect of this game is designed to be involving on a personal level. Levels are becoming increasingly harder. Platforming, puzzle solving and fights become tougher. But since the more you play, the better grip on the controls you get, the increase in difficulty is actually welcome. Not only that, but it makes you feel just how much better at this game you are becoming. This sense of progress becomes personal because of how involved in the game you became and results in a sense of personal growth, which in turn makes this game even more engaging. There is even such an obvious gameplay mechanic as a gradually increasing health, a basic designer's tool to give the player a sense of growth, which is added to fully cement the feeling of personal self-improvement. And let's not forget a sense of tension and motivation to move as fast as you can, which are added with the time limit, and in turn add a whole new layer of engagement to the game. So at this point it feels like it can't get any better, right? I mean, where do you go when you've constructed a gameplay system which manages to be engaging on multiple levels? Well, you can add something else into the mix. Emotions. Remember the mirror, the giant guard, the levitation potion? We've established that these moments are surprising because of how out of ordinary they appear in the game, which relies so heavily on its mechanics. But now that we've learned that those mechanics are actually incredibly involving, the surprise of them being turned upside down in a unique situation becomes drastic. And because they completely rely on the gameplay, they become emotional. A sense of confusion in the mirror scene, the worrying feeling of uncertainty as you jump in the pit after drinking a mysterious potion. It is amazing just how effective the scenes work in this game. Now remember that the scenes I've described are just a couple of examples. I haven't even mentioned some of the more powerful scenes of this game, and let me tell you that if a 1-hour game managed to produce such an array of emotions, then it certainly does something right. The limited controls make this game involving. The presentation with its simplicity makes everything distinctly visible without giving any distractions, which helps the gameplay. The level design gives a sense of growth and self-improvement. The 1-hour time limit creates a sense of tension, and the game design manages to use it all in order to produce emotions in the player, thus turning this game into an emotional journey. Everything works together perfectly in this game, and if you want to change anything, like any part of this game, it would become a lesser experience. So I have to say that Prince of Persia is a great game. Wow, I just can't believe that such a short, small and simplistic game managed to be this masterful. That's incredible.
Well, George, sometimes less is more.